Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Night Raven. If you've seen the show before, you know The Night Raven is about everything metaphysical. It's about storytellings. It's about the paranormal, aliens, you name it, we have it. And just remember, this is for truth seekers, storytellers, and lovers of the unknown. So if you would like any or all of that, this is the place to be. And I hope you tune in to every episode. And so today we have a wonderful, wonderful lady with us. Her name is Betty Ann Dean. She is a medical intuitive, and I've always been intrigued by Betty Ann because I know her personally. I've seen her at events and fairs, and I kind of know what a medical intuitive is, but only like on the surface. So I kind of thought, why not ask her to come on and then she can talk a little bit about all the things that she does, all her talents and her gifts, and kind of inform or let everybody else know what that is, a medical intuitive. So, Betty Ann, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Well,
And
thank you for having me.
yeah, absolutely. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because usually when I do it, I forget stuff and I want to make sure that we don't leave anything out. So if you could just let people know who you are and what you do, and then we'll just talk a little bit about all this stuff.
Sure. Um, so I'm Betty Ann. Um, I have always been interested in things medical. I was a nurse, and really always wanted to be a nurse. So I had that background in Western medicine, worked in coronary care and intensive care. I've done a lot of different things over the years. I stayed home to raise my children, and then I had a little diversion into fitness. I had a career in fitness for a while. And during that time is really when I started to get interested in metaphysical things and energy work, um, which was a real stretch for me, I'll say, because I did have that background in Western medicine and grew up. My dad was an eye doctor. I was married to a doctor. And so it was a big stretch to move over to the energy medicine side of things. But it just made so much sense to me. So
Huh.
I started to study with Donna Eden, which was really a great intro to energy medicine. And along the way, I'll say I was fascinated with medical intuitives, but I thought, well, that's great, but I can't do that. I don't have those skills, and I just thought that would be so cool to be able to look inside of someone and see what was going on. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That is so fascinating. I mean, when you say, I mean, you were a nurse. So I know sometime, well, I shouldn't say that, but my assumption is that when you are like in the medical field, maybe you're like more into the science, you're like, you believe in the Western medicine and nothing else. And then there's people like on the other side, they're like, no, 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 it's like energy and we need to take care of the energy and the body and the whole mind and spirit. So I'm wondering, how did you blend this? I mean, was there something that kind of got your attention as far as metaphysics, or how did that transition happen? What grabbed your attention there?
I think I'd always been interested.
Okay.
And I was seeing a reflexologist at the time who was studying with Donna. And I went to a little event that some of the students put on. And when I got done, when I finished that day, I thought, I just have to feel like this all the time because I felt great. And then I started to explore it a little bit and finally took the courses and the certification. But I will say in the beginning, I felt like I was going down a rabbit hole to,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
you know, to,
Yes.
to study the energy work. And I would come back home and I didn't know how to integrate it. And yeah, it was tough for a while. It was kind of a struggle, and I would fall back to the Western medicine. But
Okay.
then as time went on, I would um, explore more and more. And if you can heal something in the energetic body before it lodges in the physical body, that
Mm-hmm.
made a whole lot of sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we get into what it is or what a medical intuitive is, do you think Do you think anybody can do that? I mean, I know you were a nurse, and I'm sure that somehow must have helped with what you're doing now because you kind of know the body or the anatomy of a human body, right? And so, do you think being a medical intuitive is something that anybody can do, or if do you should you have a little bit of more medical experience before you get into that? What do you think?
Absolutely anybody can do it.
Okay.
It's not a gift, as I've come to learn. It's just a matter of learning to pay attention to the subtle things that
Uh
you
huh.
see and know. I do think that it's important to have some general knowledge of where things are in the body, but I don't think that you have to be some kind of scientist or medical, have
Like
that medical background.
medically trained.
Not necessarily, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
anyone, if they want to, um, could learn this. Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes it really interesting. So can you explain a little bit what that is, what you do? Let's say somebody comes. I know you do fairs, right?
I
And
do.
so when somebody comes to your table or your booth, what is it that you do for those people? What do you what
Um,
happens?
Generally, at a fair, it's a little bit different than if someone comes to me privately for a session.
Okay.
At
Mm-hmm.
a fair, I'm doing a shorter session, so I'll usually have a person say, "I'm having a problem with my digestion," and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just say, "Tell me an area, to go to first. Don't
Mm-hmm.
tell me why I need to go there." And then I can start to describe what I see in the energy. Um, it's just at a fair, we can get there a little faster that way. Um, when someone comes for a private session, I ask them not to tell me anything so that I
Mm-hmm.
can be more credible.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you can go through and scan someone from head to toe just looking. It
Mm-hmm.
never works like that for me. I'm always pulled someplace. Um, I work with guides and they help to direct me to that place. And then I just start to, say maybe this area doesn't seem as bright as the rest of you. The energy here seems a little lower, or um, describe it like an image. I tend to see a lot of images, and just start to describe. So that's kind of
So
how.
when you say you scan them, is it like in your mind's eye or is it like into your intuition or do you do what Reiki healers do sometimes where they put their hands or like around the body? How does this work for you?
No, it's
Or is it
really,
like different?
yeah, it's really just, intuition and all of this is about learning to pay attention to the subtle things that pop into your mind right away. So that's really a huge part of it is just what pops right in. What am I drawn to?
Oh,
What do
okay.
I notice about that? Um, yeah. What and starting to that's a big step to trust what
Yes.
pops in and
Yes.
speak that, because
Yes.
if you wait too long, then your mind starts to say, "Oh, that can't be right."
Yep. I understand because when I was learning all those things myself, you have the self-doubt, right? You have stuff in your head or in your mind and you're like, "No, that just can't be true." But I notice it's like it's not about you, it's about what you get for the client. So a lot of times even the craziest thoughts, you just need to spit it out because even if it doesn't make sense to you, the people are like, "Oh my God, how did you know?" So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
you just need to trust yourself that spirit always gives you the answers. It's just like for you to interpret and make it like literally translate it for the client as to what's going on. And so that's really what it's all about. And so I mean, having a trained or good tuition or trust your intuition, I think is really important no matter what kind of a work you do, right?
Absolutely.
And
And
so,
and
yeah, go
really
ahead.
trusting,
Yeah.
why did that word pop in your head?
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
remember one of the first sessions I did, something popped in about parachute, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna say it." And it had meaning for this client, but,
Yeah.
I could easily have talked myself out of, "Oh, that's crazy, I'm not gonna say it."
Yeah.
But,
Exactly.
um
And so when you are drawn to an era or area, in a client's body, do you then analyze more about what this why it is there, what caused it, or do you go further with that? Or
I do. Once, let's say we're looking digestive area or stomach or something like that.
Mhm.
Then I can. It's almost like using a flashlight or a laser beam. Almost like you just go in and is it red? Is it fiery? Is it red all over? What colors come up? What images come in? Because spirit communicates a lot with images. I think
Yeah.
because it's easier. You can get a lot of information from an image. So
Mhm.
it's just tuning in really and looking around, almost like you're looking around with a little laser pointer or something. But
And you see that in your mind's eye then?
yes,
Oh, cool.
yes,
And I mean, I'm sure that people kind of confirm what you're seeing. Um, is it sometimes that you give them something new that they haven't really figured out yet? Has that happened before?
sometimes yes.
Okay.
Um, it, I think it's important to say that a credible medical intuitive will never give you a diagnosis
Oh, okay.
unless you're a medical intuitive who is licensed to diagnose in some
Gotcha.
way. If there are medical intuitives who are physicians.
Uh-huh.
So, but
I know.
unless you have that
Yeah.
license, I can really only describe what I see in your energy.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And I can say, um, I think you should see your doctor about this. I think you should check into this pretty, maybe do it pretty soon.
Yeah.
Um, I can say things like that. There
Mhm.
are ways to soften that, I guess. But
Yeah.
um, even if perhaps in my with my guidance or in my head, I'm like, oh, that's what's going on. Um, I really can't speak that. So
Yeah.
I think that's important to know.
I
Um,
think so too, and I'm glad you touched on that because as a reader myself, I know we have to always make sure we there's a fine line that we don't cross, right? I know
absolutely.
I
Yes.
mean, when I have clients at a or especially at a fair because you get so many in a day, right? And
Yes.
a lot of the readings are either finance, relationship, love, or health. And so you have to, I mean, so many times I have said to somebody, I'm not a divorce attorney, so I can only give you what I hear or feel, or when they ask me about
Yes.
health, I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but here's what I'm feeling. So you have to be very careful, how you phrase things that are coming through from spirit, because again, like you said, you're not here to diagnose and you're not here to give like legal advice, and so
Mhm.
I mean, you always like walk this fine line between wanting them to know everything that's in your head, but then you also want to make sure that you kind of you take yourself out of, any kind of like, I shouldn't say responsibility, but I think that's really what it is. You have to make sure that they still go and see their doctors and their attorneys and make sound life decisions after a
Yes.
reading.
And I think, to me, it's really, really important to be ethical in this work.
Yes.
Because to me, there's nothing more intimate than a reading like this because you're in someone's physical body, you're looking around inside. So that's just really important to me.
It is.
When I first started studying energy work, I thought probably people who could see energy were standing up in the front of the room looking and scanning everybody and saying, "Oh, oh," you know.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I never, sometimes you'll pick up things in people's energy, but I never do this work without asking
Yeah.
permission. And
Yes.
I think that's also really important.
I
That's
think you're not supposed to. I mean, just by and there's no police really coming to get you, but I think just being a good reader and a good person, I think you should never do that without any kind of permission or invitation of doing that. I mean, when you stand next to somebody, sometimes even in a grocery store, I stand next to somebody, and I can feel their energy, but I don't go up to people and say, "Hey, here's what I'm hearing." You see that on TV, but that's not reality. Okay, you don't go out and do stuff like that, but So just know for everybody out there who is looking for a reader or is going to fairs, if somebody just um, comes up to you unsolicited and gives you all kinds of advice, I would say run. I mean, find find a really good ethical reader who just really makes sure that the delivery is appropriate. I guess that's kind of how I
Yes, and I
phrase it.
think that's so important it's another really important point for people to know because, I've had people say, "I'm gonna get my nerve up and come and have a session with you," and I'm like, "Oh, please." You know, I always wanna leave people feeling hopeful and positive and, like, here's a way you could take some action about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's important because when I first started seeing medical intuitives around at fairs and things, I thought, "Oh, that looks so interesting, but what if they told me something terrible?"
Yeah, like, oh, you got cancer. And I'm like, nobody should ever tell you something like this. It's not
No,
up
no,
to you to do that.
no. Right. Or
Yeah.
saying, "I don't think you have long to live."
Yeah.
No, no.
But funny enough, I get this question all the time. When I open the Akashic records for someone, they're like, "So tell me when will I die?" And I'm like, "They will never tell you. They will never ever tell you
Because
because
well, and we have a lot of choice too in the way we
yes,
live our lives and,
exactly,
so,
exactly.
it's just too big a variable. It's
I
just not
know. I
worth it.
know people are curious and they want to know and they ask stuff like that, but I think it's really important for the reader to handle those things in a really ethical and very appropriate way. And so,
Yes.
yes. So thank you for saying that, and thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. It's really
It's
important.
kind of my soapbox, I guess. I feel really passionately about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, there's just so much information that you can learn in this way about,
Mm-hmm.
different about how our emotions land in different places in our body. And we say those things like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, and then you've got all this shoulder pain.
Yes.
Um, Realizing external things that are affecting your physical health too. And
Yes.
I think a
Yes.
lot of people don't know that. So,
They don't make the connection, I guess.
mhm, mhm.
So, a part of your medical intuitive sessions is it like letting them know, oh, I see some. I'm just going to make something up. So I see something in your heart chakra, but I feel like you have like emotions trapped there. And is there something on the outside that could affect it? I mean, do you combine it a little bit with like what's going on in their lives, or
Absolutely. Because I'll ask my guides, tell me or show me now exactly um, when this issue started, or, it could be, there's lots of reasons for things going on with us physically. It could be something in your current life, a relationship, something with your job, something in your environment, a past life thing, even an entity, which, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that is out there, but,
Hmm.
lots of things can affect us physically. So,
I agree. What are those things? Is it like maybe relationships, work? What all have you seen or come across that you can think of like when you do
let
a
me
reading?
share. Often it's about um, a trauma. I used to think, well, some people have some trauma,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to think we've all got it.
We all got it somehow. Yeah.
All got it. And, lots of times we think that those issues we've had as children or the way we were raised or our family, over time we think, oh, yeah, I'm over that. Or, we don't realize that those wounds go on and
Mm-hmm.
really almost become bigger generation after generation.
My
So
God. Yes.
um, that's a lot of it. That's a lot of it, really. Um,
Yeah, I know. Sometimes we even forget stuff that happened to us, but I think our body doesn't forget. I think it gets
I think
stuck
it's a
there.
way we handle that trauma. It's, if somebody comes and says, I just don't remember anything about my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big red flag to me. Like,
That would be
okay,
me, by the way. Like, I hardly remember anything, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird, you know. I talked to my friend Grace. I think you know Grace, right?
Yes,
Grace
I
lives.
do. Mhm.
I did talk to her about that, and she's like, you know, and I always thought that if I don't remember anything about my childhood, I mean, that's kind of what I heard, that nothing significant happened to you. And I'm like, okay, I can go with this, you know. But then Grace was like, yeah, maybe we need to look
Mm.
into this. You know, I'm like,
Because
oh,
it's a way that we protect ourselves, and when we're laying down those memories of our childhood,
uh-huh.
we don't feel safe to do that, then,
Interesting,
um,
yeah.
we just let it go.
We
So,
just let it go. But it
it
kind of
makes me wanna look
festers.
deeper when you people are like, "No, I don't remember anything." Like,
I
"Oh,
don't. I mean, I have bits and pieces and stuff, of course,
yeah,
from playing with my friends and, stuff like that. But I can't, I mean, gosh, if you asked me, like, how were you when you were 4 years old? I'm like, I don't know. Or 5 years old. I don't know. I mean, I just don't have a lot of
yeah,
memories, I'm not saying I don't remember anything. It's just not a lot,
yeah,
or I
yeah."
don't know.
But I think it's, important to realize too that those things don't just, go away, that
They
our
don't,
body
yeah.
hears that, our body remembers it, and
Yeah, it kind of festers, doesn't it?
oh, absolutely, even from years and years ago, and yeah, so
And then are you able to kind of identify that and help them through this and kind of resolve these issues? Or is it just for you? Not, I shouldn't say just because that sounds like I'm minimizing what you're doing, but I'm wondering if you kind of identify what that is and then help them kind of resolve it, if that makes sense.
that's my goal
Okay.
because I think a lot of intuitives in various settings will just give you a lot of information, which is
Okay.
great.
Hmm.
But I always like to give people some steps to take, some
Okay.
healing steps to take, because, it's like, okay, now we know how this could have affected you, or we know what's going on. What do we,
What are we doing about
what
it?
are what are we going to do about it? Or how could I feel better? Or how could I move the energy? A lot of times, just getting the energy moving helps
Yeah.
a lot. So,
So there is something called the emotion code. I don't know a lot about it, but it seems like that kind of ties in a little bit with what you do, where there's like stuck emotions somewhere in the body, and you kind of, identify where that is, and you just kind of move it along so it can get resolved or healed. Would you say that that's kind of a little bit of a
it's similar, I would say,
uh huh?
and again, it goes back to those, certain emotions land in different places in our
Mm-hmm.
body. Uh, yeah, nervous system is all about communication. Autoimmune disease, often there's a component of anger. To me, it's like
Oh.
figuring out a puzzle, like, okay, I see a lot people, let's just say shoulder issues, and
Mm-hmm.
they're taking care of young kids and maybe aging parents and a demanding job and and feeling all this pressure. And
Yeah.
lots of times that shows up in the shoulders.
Yeah. You just gave a few examples of where emotions can get stuck. Can you give a few more? I mean, I heard like maybe financial um, issues are in the lower back. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's true. I just heard that. Is there any other things that you can tell us, like for the
Sure.
viewers?
Well, so lower, if you think about the hips, I always think about the hips as a foundation,
Mm,
because that's really your basis for walking ahead, moving. That's where you start the movement.
gotcha.
So moving forward is problems in the hips, knees, ankles, feet is often about how do I take the next step? How do I move
Oh,
forward? Um, what's the next right step for me? So that's often a place to look. Um, it's like it's so, I think it's fun. It's like figuring out a
yeah.
puzzle. Why is this on the right side and not the left?
Oh, that makes a difference too, huh?
Our right side is considered a masculine side,
Oh,
which doesn't mean that it has to be an issue about a man, but those characteristics like being
oh,
assertive, speaking out, saying what I think, Well, our left side is the receiving side, the more feminine side, or, can I receive a compliment? Can I receive money for the job I do? Kind of thing.
Wow.
So, and ideally we want that to be nice and balanced, and you're not always doing, 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 and you're able to let others
Mm-hmm.
do for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Wow,
Is it
that's
in the
just so
front or is it in
yeah.
the back? Backs that tend to be old things, it's things that are behind us, literally.
Wow. Well,
So,
that makes sense. That makes
yeah.
total sense. And then
Yeah.
I guess the front would be where things are ahead of us, maybe?
Mhm, mhm. And
Wow.
a lot of times, facing, what are you looking at? Anything on the face or and skin too, I would say, you know, what are you looking at? What's hard to look at, or what's really getting under your skin. Eventually, those emotions have to go somewhere. So
Wow.
lots of times
Wow.
they'll come out as skin issues. So
Wow, that is
it's
so
fascinating.
interesting. It's yeah, I mean, I can tell. I mean, I kind of had an idea, like I said in the beginning, but I mean, unless you're really into this or you're learning it, you don't know all the details. So I'm really glad you're on here and talking about it so people get a better idea of what that is. And
Yeah,
um obviously they can book a session with you privately as well, correct? Like the
sure.
vibrantbodyworks.com, you have your own website where they can find you.
I do. Yeah.
So at fairs, you do maybe 30-minute sessions, or what do you
I
do?
usually do 20 minutes
20 minutes?
at
Okay.
fairs, which
What's a
really, in 20 minutes, we can kind of look at one thing. Um, and I think a longer session is always helpful because then you can get a little bit more into the healing than you have time to do at a fair. So,
so is that what you do when you do a private session? How long
mhm,
is a private session
an
usually? Or
hour
it's an
usually.
oh
An
wow.
hour.
That's a big difference. Yeah, you
So
can
I a lot of times will draw you a little picture on a little body form, or this color shows up here. That color is also a way to see into the body, and um, I think,
wow. So this yeah, can you like give us some color examples as to what they mean maybe?
well, color is
Or what it means for you, I guess.
yeah. So green. Let's go with green, like that spring green, like grass, is
Mhm.
always about healing. Um, if a color is dark or muddy looking, like let's do red, bright red, like a nice sports car red that's clear, um, might just mean a lot of vitality and energy in that person. But if it's a muddy red, darker, more um, like iron, how you see red that you feel like has some brown
Yeah.
in it,
Uh-huh. Yes.
that's been around for a while. The cloudy, dark colors generally, light is always better, I'll say.
Okay.
Light and
Okay.
clear is always better.
And
So,
then a color means different things for you, obviously. Would
yes.
would you say so? Okay.
Yeah, always green is always healing. A lot of times, let's say someone has had a grief or sorrow, and you see a little thin green line around the lungs, which means that, there's some healing happening.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That would make sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that is so interesting. There's just so many components that go into one of these sessions. I had no idea, but that's really very,
Yeah.
very interesting.
It's it's really, all intuition is just paying attention to the subtle, and it's just paying attention to the information, because there's information around us everywhere. So,
Yeah, there is. That's true. And so, yeah. And to be aware of it is really kind of like that's when you pick it up,
yes,
but I really would like for you, if you're okay with it, if you just get into the intuition things a little bit more. I mean, if you
sure.
maybe can talk about how somebody can maybe shape their intuition or like maybe um, get more into it, if that makes sense, and
Mhm.
it's like, how do you work on that? What if you want to be a medical intuitive? Like, maybe you can help people along a little bit or get them started or plant a seed. How do you develop your intuition a little bit better or
Well,
more?
I think it's important first to start paying attention. And I would say the more playful you can be with it, the better.
Hmm.
Play around with it. My grandkids and I sometimes will play a game in the car, like, what time are we going to get there? Um,
Oh,
who's getting off the elevator first? That kind of thing. But they play around with things that maybe don't have great significance for you, or don't start with the heaviest thing first. But
okay.
the more you can play with it, I think the more it opens up to you. So play around, notice what you notice. There's really no right or wrong, so don't be all judgy about it. Um, you know, just
Yeah.
notice what you notice. Why did that word pop in? Instead of saying, like we were saying, oh, that can't mean anything.
Hmm.
Why did
Hmm.
that pop in? And just start taking a look a little bit, and
Explore, yeah.
really pay attention to what pops into your head right away. Um, if you're waiting, sometimes people work really hard at it and you can tell, you can see the wheels turning, and that's not your intuition then. It's
Hmm.
that little space in there. There's a quick little space where you get that information. Um,
I
that's
would
the true stuff.
That's yeah. I mean, I would say it's your gut, right? Go with your when people say go with your gut, that's
Yeah.
usually what it is, you know?
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
I was learning, I was very insecure in the beginning. I'm like, how would I know whether or not it's the message from spirit or if I'm making something up because this is what my client wants to hear, right? And then my mentor said, Bettina, is when you ask the question and the answer comes in faster than you can end the question, that's usually spirit, okay? Because they already know what you're trying to ask, you
Mhm.
know. So if it pops in really fast, or if it is something that you would never think of, and that's why we talk about those crazy messages, because you would never come up with that, right? Only spirit does. So if it's something like this, that's your intuition, or that's spirit giving you the messages, you know? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
trust yourself that you can receive, and then it's just up to you to kind of interpret, you know, or play around. Like you said, you know, you play around with it and see, what does this mean? You know, what do they want to tell me?
And I think it's important to know too that it's always going to feel like you made it up. I still sit down with
Yes.
a client. It's always going to feel like that because it's information from the non-physical.
Yeah.
And I still will sit down with a client and I'm like, seriously? But so realize that that never changes because that's the intuitive part of it. So
And maybe that's a good thing, because that never lets you take things for granted.
mhm,
You know, that's kind of how I feel. It always kind of keeps you thinking about, okay, I mean, that's what I do. You know, sometimes I'm like, okay, am I good enough? Or when I go to a fair and I'm like, oh my God, you know, what if I can't come up with anything? Or you
mhm.
still have those feelings and those thoughts no matter how long you've been doing those things. I feel like that never really goes away. At least it doesn't for me. And
Same,
yeah,
same.
yeah,
Mhm.
because I feel like you're never done learning. You're never done exploring or
No,
expanding your intuition and your skills and your talents. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's what we owe our clients, you know,
yes.
that we never just stop and, you know, think, oh, we're great and we can just do it all, because
No, I think that's when you get in trouble,
I think so too.
but
So,
it's like it's honing a skill. It's sort of like playing the piano. Everybody can learn to play the piano, but
yeah.
the more you do it, the better you're going to be. So the more you play around with this or start noticing the subtle things. Why is there a cardinal in your yard every single day? Or,
Yeah.
why you see these figures in these clouds, or whatever it is.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Repeating numbers, all those kinds of things. Once you start paying attention, and
Once you pay attention, I think a whole nother world opens up to you.
it does, and it's so
It
fascinating.
is fascinating. You're like, oh my God, why did I never ever see this before? Well, you did. You just didn't pay attention to it, you know?
Yeah, and I think realize too, when you're working with your guides, you can ask a lot of questions.
Mm hmm.
Am I perceiving this correctly?
Mm hmm.
That's a good question. Like, can you slow down? You know?
Wow, yes. Thank you for saying that. I feel really, even I've done readings for so many years, but when I talk to somebody like you and we come up with a common theme or what we just talked about, I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you. I'm not the only one," because
No, I was
I
thinking that you too.
I know, right? Like, "Whew, thank God."
I'm not
Because
the only one that thinks I made it up.
exactly. We all go through that. It's a common thing. So it's just because we've done it for so long and so many years doesn't mean that we're totally immune to that. And I want
Gosh, no.
I want my clients to know I'm always doing the best I can. And we're putting ourselves out there and we're learning and we're practicing and we're doing our work for you guys, for the clients, not
Yes.
for us. I mean, we're putting ourselves out there for them to help them. And so, um, yeah, that's just kind of what we do. We're like in service of the community, right?
I have kind of a little story about that.
Yeah.
So a lot of medical intuitives are also mediums, not all, but so I've had some mediumship experiences too. And I had a client who was quite ill, and we'd worked together several times, and he passed away. And I started to get some information, and I had worked with his wife also, so I reached out to her, and I normally don't do that, but it was so clear. And he was sitting cross-legged on the floor holding out a t-shirt that was folded up like you would buy in a store.
Yeah.
And so I just told her, and I could see the t-shirt was a certain color and it had a letter on it. And so I just told her all those things. And she said, "Oh, I was a fan of this football team and he was trying to get me to like his team. And that was the letter." And she said, "I've gotten rid of all of his clothes pretty much, but that shirt is folded up in the laundry basket right now."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh." So you start to get that validation if you
You
be
do.
brave enough to speak the
Yep.
information
Yes.
that you
Yes.
get,
Yes.
and those little details that, because it's not our job to interpret it either. It's you just
Mm-mm.
describe what you see,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the client then interprets it for you.
Yeah. I mean, you're
Yeah,
trying to be as clear as you can and describe it, but it's really their message. It's not our message. It's
right.
their message, you know?
Because
Um,
sometimes if things pop in and you don't say them, maybe that's something that has great meaning for that client,
exactly.
but you don't
Exactly.
know that. So
Yeah. And so for anybody who's out there and is just wanting to do this, but they don't trust themselves enough, it's like you have to get over that. You have to practice, practice, practice. And I know validation gives you the confidence, but you don't get the validation if you don't put yourself out there. You
that's
just
true.
have to go and do it.
And it's scary, I'll
I
say.
know.
One of the very
Because
first clients, I did a bunch of practice sessions just because I wanted to do it that way, um, at no charge. And one of my
yeah.
very first clients I could see something serious was going on. And I said it, and she said I was just diagnosed with cancer. And I was kind of like, oh, um, yeah. So,
Yeah.
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 So
But you're not the one who wants to say that. You just want them you
but
want to
you've got to say the things that pop in,
yeah, you
because
do. You
that's the
do.
truth.
Yes.
Things. And even sometimes, if it doesn't make sense to them in the moment, a
It
couple months down the road or something, they'll be like, "Oh, you were really right about that."
Yep. Yep. I
Mhm.
had people come back and they're like, you were right. I'm like, I told you. I told you so. you know.
Right.
I
And
mean
I
it
think we've
is
all had those readings where you're like, "Oh, no, that doesn't make any
yeah,
sense."
yeah, yeah.
You're like, "Oh, yeah."
But deep down well, spirit isn't wrong. They just don't recognize it at the moment. And you have to have the
Right.
confidence to notice, to realize that. And you're like, you're not beating yourself up. You're like, oh my God, I'm not good at this. Yes, you are good at this. It's just it's up to them to digest the information and then maybe even recognize it in their own lives or in their own environment. And
And I think
sometimes
sometimes when maybe you feel like you're not getting information, or you're kind of in one of those moments, you just can't, it's like you just can't get in. That's a lot of times about your client. maybe they're kind of afraid of what you're going to tell them,
Exactly.
and they're kind of putting up a barrier, and
Yeah.
it's hard for you to get in. And so
Yeah.
you help them to relax a little bit, and you know,
Yeah. I mean, they sit down and they claim they want a reading, but then sometimes they really
yeah,
don't. I mean, deep down, they're like afraid of what you're coming up with, and there's a lot of
yes,
times they're surprised as to how detailed you are. And they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. And sometimes it hits something in them, it triggers. And then,
mhm,
they start crying sometimes.
yeah,
But,
yes,
um, yeah, I mean, they want a reading, but then maybe they're not really ready. So, and again, I think it's another thing for you to remember as a reader. It's like sometimes this is what they do, they say they want a reading, but maybe they're not really ready, and they're
and
kind
I
of
think
tuning you out.
that's why that piece is so important about knowing what an ethical reader will and won't tell you. Um, I
Yeah,
think that's important to, nobody's going to say, don't buy green bananas or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, if they're ethical.
Yeah, yeah. I think you should say something like, I don't think you're ready for a reading. Maybe we try again some other time. And here's my number. If you're ready, or when you're ready, call me. And of
Mhm,
course, you don't charge them.
sure.
That's another thing. You don't take their money just so you can make a little bit of a, I don't know, what, $30, $40 at a fair, and you just,
Mhm.
it's not
Yeah,
worth it. It's not worth it. You don't do that.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
because it's a really vulnerable
Yeah.
spot to be in. So, which is why I'm so big on ethics, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
Same here. Me too.
yeah,
And it's not just all about the detail that you're getting. It's when I teach classes too, and I always tell my student, it's not just about the information you're getting. What I teach you is how to handle certain readings. And sometimes you get people, they sit down and you can tell, and I'm not trying to prey on men here, but sometimes you can tell, like a woman or has her husband and she's not comfortable with him being there, but he insists on being there. So it's not just about the messages you're getting. You have to learn, and that's why it's probably a good idea, if you want to learn something, find a good mentor, because you have to learn how to handle readings and people too,
mhm.
you
I
know?
really just like to read for one person at a time. I don't
Yeah.
like, because I do think maybe people aren't as open, if it's a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, they can't really
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
um,
There's a lot that goes into something like this,
and,
into a reading.
if it's, I don't read for my family, or people that
I
I have
don't either.
great emotion about, because then I'm not, you know, I think that might affect my accuracy too, and I'm not, yeah, so I don't.
It's hard to be neutral when it comes to your family,
Yeah, when you
you
feel
know?
emotional about someone or it's your best friend or no,
Yeah.
I don't do
Because with the people that come to you, you kind of can like disconnect from the energy, and you go home, and you're like back in your own space. But when it's your family or close friends, you kind of know those things about them. All of a sudden you can't really, I mean, for me, you can't really disconnect. It kind of
mhm.
stays with you.
Or you wish it was different or,
Yeah, exactly.
so yes, and
Exactly.
I think that's another good point is you must disconnect from the energy and you must keep your own energy clean.
Yeah.
I
You
think
want to
a
talk a
lot,
little bit about
yeah,
energy hygiene?
yeah, I think that's super important. I think we tend to think that, um, "Oh, I'm okay," but, at the end of the day, if you've seen several clients and there's a lot of things, you've got to, and I like the little command, um, "Bring me and only me back to me, clean and clear," and then have my guides create some sort of filter, and you feel it yourself walking through this filter, and on the other side of the filter, a lot of times you're seeing black stuff, black tarry stuff, or who knows what, but you've got to cleanse your own energy because it'll make you
Yeah.
sick if you don't.
It does, yeah. Especially when you're an empath, you take so many emotions with you. So, I mean, energetic, what do they call it? Energy hygiene or something. There's a term for that. I mean, I think it's really important that you do that. So you kind of
Absolutely.
cleanse yourself before like an especially when you see so many people in like in a matter of 3 days, um,
At
that you
least at the
ground.
end of every day, if you don't
Yeah.
have to in between every client. But,
No, yes. Yes.
people will say, "Oh, I'm just an empath. I pick up all this stuff." And it's like, no, you don't have to suffer yourself to do this work,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know?
You may be
So
an empath, yeah, but I mean, you still have to um get it off of you, just brush the emotions off and the energy. You have to do that at
mhm,
least once at the end of the day so you don't take it home with you.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's,
Because
I
in
guess,
yeah,
part of the medical thing. I think that's just the emotions you don't want to be stuck to you.
I know, I know. So,
Mhm.
but I think a lot of, healers forget that piece, and a lot of times you'll see healers that don't look very healthy, and yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
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 So it's
We
super important. But I like that little command, just bring yourself back to you and think about that filter that, leave all
yeah.
that old stuff on the other side.
Yes,
That's an
yes.
easy way to do it. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Another thing I want to mention is when we talk about intuition, I had a hard time with when I first started out, and maybe you can like, tell me a little bit about that, how it was for you. But when I tuned into like spirit guides or, all the energetic beings that are around a client, a lot of times they give me crazy messages like a clown riding roller skates or riding a bike or something really strange. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And
yeah,
then but it's really important that you understand that you don't have to take this as a message. You can always go back in your mind and say, okay, I'm not getting this. You need to make it more clear. So you have to communicate with your spirit guides or with their spirit guides and say, this is not something I understand. Give it to me in
yes,
a different way. Or can you clarify? So there's always a communication going between you and these light beings, you
yes,
know?
yes. So I think it's important to know who you're working with. So I like, because I want you to work with the very best guides out there. Um, I like divine and sacred, holy, pure, whatever. I don't even really like highest or best because there are darker, lesser uh, guides that
Hmm.
are pretty good at their job and high up in that at that level.
Yeah.
Divine and sacred, those are going to be some good guides, and
Okay.
I think so. Your first question when you call in a guide is, "Are you truly divine and sacred?" And you'll get a yes or a no, or they'll if they wander off, then the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
So then start. It's like a job interview, I think. Like
Thank
start
you.
asking questions
Yeah.
like how is it best for us to work together? Do we
Mhm.
need more people on our team? There are specialist guides for everything.
Oh,
So
okay.
a guide to help you see issues with the heart, a guide to help you speak clearly, a guide to help you with your finances. So just make sure they're divine and sacred and that you're working with the best of the best and not just any old person, any old dead person.
Yeah, exactly. I guess you
And
could always say divine and sacred. I mean, how would you know for sure? I mean, you said one thing about, well, they're kind of saying no or they walk away. But I think another thing that I just kind of got from spirit is if they make you feel good. If you
yeah,
feel good, you know that they're here for, your highest good. And if you feel uncomfortable, it's probably good to like call in some other guides.
yes. Or again, do that interview, ask some questions. And I think you'll start to see, I think you can really trust information from the divine and sacred.
Mhm.
Other things, or I think it's also possible that maybe you've worked with a guide for a while and maybe you find you need something more.
Yeah.
And it's okay to let them go and bring in somebody else. But we've got to be really clear with our communication with guides too. I've heard people give commands like, that are so long and vague. I'm like, I don't know what you're asking, and I'm sure they don't either.
Yes.
So,
That's funny.
short and sweet, use your powerful words. Tell me or show me now exactly.
Yeah.
Am I perceiving this correctly? Like we said before. Um,
Yeah.
ask a lot of questions. I think we tend to think we can't ask very many questions, but
No, you have to.
you
You
do.
have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
And really think about your words and things like, can you show me this? Well, that's pretty vague. Um,
Mhm.
they could just say, yeah, I can show you, or
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can, but you
Yeah.
know. So really think about your power words
Yes.
and be in charge.
I
So
agree. I
make
agree.
it, and don't ramble on and on and on, because then, I don't think they
Yeah.
understand us very well, if you're
Yeah.
doing
But
so.
I think that comes with practice, the more you do it, the
Sure.
better you get at it. And so I think that's what it boils down to. Everybody has those gifts and those abilities, but you just have to work at it and you have
And it's
to
well, I
develop.
I would say you have to play with it.
You have to play with it. Yes.
You have
Okay.
to play with it.
Okay.
Um,
Yes. There you go. We'll take that.
um, yeah, but it's always like you said it really beautifully before, like you're just honing a skill.
Yeah.
You're always improving. You're always looking to be more clear, or
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
trust trust more easily, or whatever. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever just arrive all perfectly,
No. No. No.
unfortunately. But
Unfortunately.
yeah,
Wow. Well, that was that was wonderful, Betty. And
thank you.
I'm just so appreciative of you that you came on and you shared all this knowledge and this information with us. And I know you have this website, it's vibrantbodyworks.com, but you're
Mhm.
also on Facebook and Instagram. It's the same name, correct?
It
Vibrant Body
is.
Works.
It
Okay.
is.
So
Yes.
they can find you on your
Yes.
website, Instagram, and
Mhm.
Facebook. Um, which event where will you be next where people can find you in person?
I'm doing the Mystic Fair in
Okay.
August, I believe. I'm not
Is it
exactly
middle
sure.
of August?
Middle of
15th.
August.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
out
So
in
yeah,
Independence, I believe. So,
there's a Mystic Fair in what? In Independence at the Stony
uh-huh.
Creek. So Betty will be there. I know Betty, she's truly one of the best.
Oh, thank
If you
you.
want to give her just go and see her and let her work on you, let her be in your presence and see what she can do because she's awesome. She's amazing and you will not be disappointed.
Well, thank you so much.
No,
I appreciate you
absolutely.
having me. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So
So, yeah,
so just
everybody
yeah,
go
be
for it.
easy. I think be easy about it and just explore your
Yeah.
intuition. And
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm hoping Betty will come back in the future and give us more of her knowledge and experience. And well, this is it for today. And we'll see you next time. Bye.